Welcome to the Way Forward Talks. The Way Forward is very happy to be presenting talks with young minds who are really revolutionizing the whole aspect of learning and helping others. We at the Way Forward are also into same lines where we are helping young minds and as well as experienced people grow in their own part with English or other skills. The Way Forward is a company into career growth and as well as hobby development. Today we have Mr. Akshath Jaganmohan with us, who is a young mind who has been in connection with many bodies all across the world and has done great work with helping many kids and as well as growing many great notions all across. So he's a great author and he has his own blog, which is really interesting. We'll go into it further. A small introduction about himself, he will be giving it to us. So welcome, Mr. Akshat.
Thank you, Amrita. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And yes, all of that was perfectly fine. I did all that, and I've been in interaction for the past 1 year or so. I have been in interaction with various bodies, and it all started with my interest in writing, and that put me in contact. And like a gush of current hit me after it was sent out to an audience, and I've interacted with so many people in the past year, and I am glad that you are one of them, and you, along with all your viewers, all the viewers of the Way Forward Talks, I'm glad that they are all people that I'm interacting with. So,
Wonderful, wonderful, Akshat. You're really a great mind and you've been doing great job. So let's get into it and let's get to know more about it. So you were one of the heads, co-heads of the 100K deal in the India region, and you have actually been working together with great people in that one thing you have been doing. So how was the experience, and can you explain to us about the whole thing and what great things have happened because of that?
okay, so basically, the 100K Deals Challenge was one organization that I work with. I love working with 100K Deals Challenge. Actually, it all started with, my book got published and it was all going great. And one fine day, I got a text message from a 12th grade person in my school named Meera Ranjan. She was part of the 100K Deals Challenge, and I didn't know her. I hadn't interacted with her before, but somehow we got in contact, and she messaged me saying, I'm part of this organization known as 100K Deeds Challenge, which is an initiative taken up by a mother organization known as One Impact. So basically, they are a model United Nations organization. MUN Impact is an organization that raises awareness about different aspects of the United Nations schemes and plans and all that. And one main aspect of the UN's schemes is Agenda 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals, which are basically, for those who don't know, 17 goals that the United Nations wants achieved by 2030, which are things like no poverty or zero hunger and things like that. Those are the SDGs, and we are raising awareness about that. We are creating, awareness workshops. We are conducting competitions, and basically our goal is to achieve 100,000 deeds. We are supposed to collect 100,000 deeds by the end of 2021. This happened sometime in December 2020, around the time before my book was launched. So basically, Meera messaged me, and I came in as lead of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. It was a role that was given to me. And also in their press team, I worked as a reporter. So those were the two jobs that I had come in with. And then later I came up as Tamil translator for them. One of the 50 out of the 150 students, 50 were student translators, so that the awareness about the SDGs could reach all the nooks and corners of the world and break the language barrier. So we had 50 student translators, and one of them for the language Tamil was me. And that was a pretty small contribution from my side, but it's still, I can mention it because it was one of the three things I did. And then later on, as as I was able to contribute more with God's grace, I had a lot of time in my hands. So I was able to contribute a little more to the India team. I conducted a whole lot of workshops, and one day I decided I have enough time to apply to become deputy head of the India region. I would directly work under Mira, who was head of India, and I thought I was ready for that. I had enough time to contribute to that. So I went in and I started, instead of conducting the workshop, I started hosting them, in the sense that I was, coordinating the workshops that were there. I was attending meetings, leadership meetings, which Mira wasn't able to do it. So that was the sort of work I did as deputy head. And then later on, I applied for another job in 100K Deeds Challenge itself. From reporter, I wanted to become co-editor in chief, which was the top position in the press team. I tried for that. Unfortunately, although I didn't get that position, I had been writing an article every month for them, which apparently nobody had done. So I was able to, although did not get the co-editor in chief, I was able to get an assistant editor in chief role. And then later on, Meera decided that I should join her as co-head of India, and I started working as co-head of India for about 3 to 4 months. I worked as co-head of India, and by December the challenge was over, and still going on. They're still working, but as per the terms decided, it was supposed to end by 2021. And I've also pulled out of the 100K Deeds challenge. It will definitely be one of the most memorable parts of my journey, as all these things. It's really just a great thing.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for enlightening us about it. And really, I appreciate the way you have grown in that organization, and really the way you have seen yourself to, be able to do all these things, and you have applied for it, and they have accepted it is a very big thing. So amazing. So among the SDGs, what do you think is the most important? As you know the SDGs in detail, you can just say a little more about it so others get to know about it as well.
I think the SDG, the importance of the SDGs, or importance of any individual SDG, is relative rather than absolute. Given that we are in a pandemic, a huge pandemic that's literally shaking the earth, I think that good health and well-being, SDG 3, would be the most important. But given that we are having an energy crisis, a climate change, and global warming, and all that is happening, given that, I think climate action would be one very important thing. And when we conduct workshops, when we talk about the SDGs, one very important thing that we stress on, one very important point, is that the SDGs are interconnected. They in the sense that they are woven together. If we are able to remove poverty from the world, from the face of the earth, if we were able to eradicate poverty, then obviously nobody would go hungry. That would affect SDG 2. If nobody went hungry, if food security was assured 100% for every single citizen on this planet, then good health and well-being is 50% assured. So the importance of one SDG is that it affects every other single SDG that is there. So that is the importance of SDGs on a whole. You can never say one is the most important. So that's the beautiful thing about this SDGs.
True. Very well said. Very well. So it's nice that we could learn more about it. Amazing. So through the deeds which were submitted by many people, there would have been something which was really good and great. So was there any memorable deed which you received during the challenge?
Memorable deed. You could say that, there are different levels of deeds that we receive, right? One is where a person makes themselves aware, right? Self-awareness, basically aware about their, where their surroundings. If you stretch out your hand, you are aware of everything that is around you, every problem, every situation. That radius, if you're aware about it, that's a specific deed. Deed is big, small, doesn't matter. And then creating awareness, whatever knowledge you have, you spread it out. So say I conduct a workshop about SDG 1, no poverty. That makes it a deed where I spread awareness. And then third comes the deeds where where people, they just go out and they perform, they act upon these SDGs. If you feed people in an old age home, or if you raise funds for feeding children in an orphanage, that's action based deeds, and that is what is really necessary at this point. Awareness, you can find it everywhere. It's in the air around us. It's spreading across the internet, it's spreading across talks like what we're having right now. It's everywhere, and it's easy to find that. But to even think about performing an action where you have a pair of slippers that are worn out, you go out and you give it to someone else, that is an action based deed. That is what we value the most at the 100K Deeds Challenge. We value that the most, and those were the most interesting of all the deeds.
Amazing. So you have created an awareness and that has made someone to take an action. That's truly an amazing thing. So great.
A ripple reaction, sir.
Yes, it creates a cycle, chain of action. So that's a very big thing. So good. So now moving away from the 100K deeds. So you happen to write a wonderful book, Italar Tea Story, right?
So it's the Aether Tea Party.
Italar Tea Party. Yes. Italar, just show it. Just show it. So you happen to write a book, The Aether Tea Party. So as you show it, it's really happy to have an author among us who's really, written so beautifully and it's come out and been published. So congratulations on that. So
thank you so much.
How did you get such a unique name as Italar? And it's a part of the Nilgiris district in India, if I'm not wrong. So as tea is main crop over there, so it's a very unique name for the story you have written. So how did you get it? And can you just walk us through the whole journey?
Okay, so as you all know, I was writing a blog and all that, and I was willing to expand a whole lot for my writing journey. So I got a chance. Of course, we'll speak about it later in the interview. But I got a chance to publish my book, and I had a story in my mind about 1950s murder mystery in that time. We just come out of the independence phase, our infrastructure is growing, and our police force, our crime solving police force would be a little bit primitive, right? So a murder mystery at that time would be quite interesting. So that was one. And this story, it primarily takes place having tea is a very important element in the story. Tea is not only a beverage in the story. Tea is very, very important element. I'm sure if you read the story, you know a lot more about it. So with that being said, the entire story takes place in a tea estate. Most part of it takes place in a tea estate. The murder occurs in that tea estate. And this tea estate is placed not in such a hyped up area. It's placed in a small tea town known as Italar, which is nearby Ooty in the Nilgiris district in Tamil Nadu. And that's where the story is based. I've actually been to Italar a few years back, and I was a little bit aware about it, but I was not, if you had, told me before I knew about this story that I was going to write, if you had asked me after I come back, do you remember this place that we crossed by? It's was known as Italar. If my parents had asked me after that trip, if they had asked me, do you remember this place we passed by, this place, Italar? Do you remember it? I probably wouldn't have known. So few years later, couple of years later, I looked through places in Ooty. I searched for a good sort of setting, and Italar was the place that fit my description of a setting for this murder mystery, and Italar just fit in perfectly, and it had to be part of the title.
Amazing. It makes it really catchy also and interesting. So I think many of us, including me, I haven't had a chance to read it, but I'm surely going to go forward and buy it. So really great.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So regarding the whole, and like you were mentioning about India's independence and post-independence. So I think you are are you a history buff? Do you like history really well?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what is the most?
It's a very fascinating history.
So what is the best part of history for you? Something which you can
History,
just.
I feel at around the 19th and 20th century, the entire world was, we were starting globalization. We're all completely, knit together, and colonization is coming to an end. You know, British has totally ruled the world, entire world, Australia, and India, and everywhere they've just ruled everything, and that's coming to an end, and we're all knit together, and we have a sort of domino reaction to everything. Something that happens in a corner of France affects something that happens in Russia, and that totally affects what happens in India. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, the French Revolution
Yes.
and the rise of socialism, that what that did to India, and the rise of ideas in India, which led to the British leaving us. It's sort of like we're connected so much together. It's like if you put dominoes together, right? If you line them up, when globalization occurred, when industrialization occurred, when we're all put together completely, it's like the dominoes are put close, much, much closer together. They're just inching towards each other. And when
Correct.
you topple one of those dominoes, everything just sort of crashes over. I think that just totally sums up the 20th century, which sort of just makes it very, very interesting to learn about. And it's just so amazing how one affects the other. And it's really interesting. So that's my favorite part of history.
Amazing, amazing. I can relive the history textbooks which I have read in school and the way I connect to it. It's really beautiful.
Mhm,
Thank you so much for
mhm.
that. Great. Okay, so as you mentioned your blog, Confessions of a Story Addict, earlier before the Aether Tea Party book. So it's a beautiful thing. So the place, the whole web page was amazing. And the content you write in it, the flow you have in it is really beautiful. So where did you start with the blog? How did you start on your blog? And what was the journey? How has the journey been since then?
Mhm. Okay, my blog, its name is Confessions of a Story Addict. It practically sums me up since a very, very young age, since when I could remember. I've been a story buff, I've been a movie buff, I've been when I could start reading, I started reading. And at around the age of 8, I started a passion for writing started in me. And although I had been telling stories, writing stories until then as something of an occasional, something like, yeah, it's a very brief thing that I would never have considered taking up as a hobby, was writing for me. And at one point, I suddenly realized that I have a knack for writing. So I decided to take it forward, and I started writing a novel sort of thing, a small book sort of thing. I started writing that, and went on for a couple of years, and it sort of, it didn't fall right into place. But I started off with the wrong foot, and I started off at the wrong place. So I needed a little more, maturity in my writing, before I took such a large step as to sending my book to the publishers and all that. So I started off with a blog about 2018, around 2018 August, 2017 August, I think. I
Mhm.
started off with Confessions of a Story Addict, and that was my first avenue to send my writing out to people who would actually, who would read it, right? But my first public forum for my writing. And it was primarily read by my first and second circles of, relatives and friends and all those people. And I started off with the story known as The Aviator's Life.
Mhm.
It's basically about a fighter pilot's story. It's that sort of a war kind of story. And then I moved along and I wrote an Indian-based court drama,
Mhm.
known as Justice is Blind. I wrote that story, and then I started writing a series known as Origins, Afters, and What Ifs.
Mhm.
Basically, it would have each part of each volume of that series, Origins, Before, Origins, Afters, and What Ifs, is basically like, I take an already existent story, say Harry Potter.
Mhm.
I take up a character from that specific story. The character I chose was Cornelius Fudge, Minister of Magic.
Yes.
And I I created an origin story for him by myself. It was unwritten, unheard of, and I sort of liked the way I went along with it. And then after, what happened to that character after the story and after his part of the story ends? What happens to Cornelius Fudge after that? So that's afters. And what ifs is a parallel universe. Basically, what if this happened? Or what if that happened? Like starting off with a question that would
Right.
change the entire story would be what ifs. So
Wonderful.
that's the series that I worked on. But to be really, really, really honest, I've not touched my blog for quite some time now. It would probably be around 8 months to a year almost since I touched anything on my blog. And really, after the book came along and uh, all that, I don't think I've really done anything, contributed to my blog, contributed time to my blog, or articles or stories or anything to my blog until then. I mean, until now. So I'm going to have to focus a little more on that and carry forward my writing that way. It's
Yes.
been a beautiful journey that Confessions of a Story Addict has been a really beautiful journey. The first stepping stone, you could say.
So I think we are all looking forward to more from you, especially in the parallel universe and all those things. It's really interesting. Especially, I went through the Cornelius Fudge thing, and I could see that he was not a very primary character in Harry Potter, but he happens to be in yours. So it's really beautiful. So really kudos for
Mhm.
that. The great thought you have had about it. Amazing. So
Thank you
how
so
is your
much.
yes? So, as your experience with First Step, you happen to be a chief editor officer in First Step organization, and you also had happened to have much more interaction with kids in that area. So, how did your experience be with them, and what are the various things you have been doing together?
The really first step was, it all started actually with my grandmother. Actually, when the book was coming along, my grandmother is actually a part of various forums, and she's a very socially active person, and she happened to come across this person named Lakshmi Narayanan in one of those forums, and his daughter Hasini Lakshmi Narayanan, she runs the First Step, and she interviews children, inspiring children whose stories, they just have to be told.
Yes.
And so, luckily, I was one of those people who was, who was able to connect with Hasini and have an interview actually very, very similar to this one. And, my book was just launched, and it was the first time I'm interacting with the outside world as myself. And, that sort of opened up a whole new avenue for me. I was taken into their organization. I was one of the first, myself and another person named Kritik Vijay Kumar. He's a robotics enthusiast, and, he's basically a technology whiz, you may call. He and I were the two first members to join the First Step as core team members who started working on the management board, you could say. And we started working. He was the chief technical officer, and I was the chief editing officer. I would, any article that they write, they have videos, and they convert those into articles as well. Some of those go into their blog, their website, and some of them they are sent to the Hindu school edition. The Hindu paper, there's a school edition of that, and it goes to them. The school edition gets some of First Steps articles. And yeah, so any article that is written by our writers, the organization grew. We have about, I mean, as long as I was there, as long as I knew, about 15 to 20 members were there. Most of them were writers.
Wonderful.
Who converted these interviews to text, to writings, and I was able to interact with a whole lot of just brilliant writers who have a great future ahead of them. I think you've interacted with Miss Pallavi Singh.
Yes.
uh, and she was one of the writers of the first step. It was just really, really great to interact with someone with such passion as Pallavi, and imagine 15 such children who are all just passionate about their writing, about their art.
Wonderful.
So it was a really, really great avenue that I had with them. But at early around this year, around 2022, earlier on during the beginning of January, I had to leave the first step due to my own reasons. I'm entering 10th grade this year. So for the same reason, I left both the first step and 100K Teach challenge around the same time. And this is really a great journey with the first step as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, just one more question, and very curious question from my side. So, you have been going through this journey of discovering yourself through all these forums that you are part of. So, how do you say that children who are maybe younger to you or your own age, how should they discover themselves? What is the first step that they need to do in order to discover their passions and their interests and what they want to do in life?
I think trying out new things is how you discover. Uh, how you discover yourself. It's you're everywhere. You're what you are, what's inside of you, what interests you, what ignites that spark of happiness inside of you is also outside somewhere, and you need to discover that that part of you outside to discover yourself. For me, it was writing, it was books, it was stories. And you could say it sort of just came to me, it just, showed up in front of me and said, hey, I'm your life, I'm you. Stories was that to me. So stories, it just jumped out at me and said, I'm you. And that's the reason I am a writer at such a young age. And I have uh, I've written a book. I've been part of 100K Leads Challenge. I've been part of the first step. I've met a whole lot of people. I'm having this interaction with you. It's because I was able to discover myself at a very, very young age. And, it's only a matter of time before that thing sort of jumps at you and says, I'm you, I'm your life, I'm what you are. So that thing, it's only a matter of time before something jumps at you. But until then, keep trying and keep trying to discover new things and stick out of that comfort zone. So that's really just the
Wonderful.
Attaining that comfort zone where you are all settled and you've discovered yourself. The path to that zone is outside your comfort zone, actually. It's discovering what's outside. And once you've discovered what's outside, then you will have everything outside would be your comfort zone. So that's how anyone, it doesn't have to be someone younger than me or even my age. It could be someone much older than me as well. And it's very actually easy to discover yourself when you are open.
Yes.
So that's basically how I discovered myself.
Very well said. That's amazing. I think I can see the philosophical touch because of the writing part coming into the answer. It was very beautiful. Very nice. So, as a member of the Clippers Child Council, you know a lot what is happening with Clippers and what they do. So, please enlighten us about the Clippers Child Council and what they are into.
So Clippers Child Council is a media company, again run by young people, all students. It was founded by Riyadh Maruf Hassan, another young achiever, a young author. He's much younger than me, and he's already founded a company. He has a whole lot of board members, all of them young. And I've actually not contributed as much to the Clippers Child Council just about yet because I've just not had the chance to interact with all those people and contribute that much. So I really can't answer too much to this question, but they have been doing really great work. They have been collaborating with a whole lot of youth empowerment organizations, and they have been, publishing great work. They have a podcast, and they're just doing really great. It's great to interact sometimes, occasionally with, children of my age, children younger than me who are doing just great work. There are environmentalists out there, inventors, much more brilliant authors than myself, who are much younger than me as well, who are all just, it's actually an avenue for me, rather than me being a part of it, me contributing to it. Clippers has been a great avenue for me to contact people, to network myself around this field. So that's what Clippers is to me. They've been doing brilliant work.
Great, great. So you happen to have been in many venues like 100K Reach
Mhm.
Challenge and also about your blog and writing the book. So how have you managed time? And as well as you have to have time with your family. So how do you manage time in the whole way completely?
Um, it's really managing time. What do you devote your time to? You devote your time to, your you have most of your time, you want it to be free and you want to do what you love. And besides that, you have studies, you have your primary commitments like your family, your education, and if you're much older, your work and all that. And to me, that's just two elements, right? One is to have fun, to do what you love.
Mhm.
And the other is your primary commitments. And at least to someone who has settled in their comfort zone, that is what time is for. That's what they do in their time. So, all these things, all this, the 100K Teach Challenge, the first step, writing, although I've come out of the 100K Teach Challenge and the first step, I have still been writing, with, I've been writing pretty regularly. And, that's something that I really love doing. So, that's one element that's already fulfilled, right? Having fun and doing what you love. 100 KDs challenge, the first step, writing, all these avenues, taking part in all these avenues, all these forums is doing what I love. And
Mhm.
the other part of it, my primary commitments, I have ample time for that. That's what I do primarily. That's what I do first. And then come all these having fun, doing what you love and all that. So basically managing my time, I have a whole lot of free time to do whatever I want. So
Wonderful.
it's really not a very difficult thing to manage your time. It's just two elements, and you can split your time however you want.
That's beautiful. That's a very beautiful
Mhm.
answer. So when we are clear with
Mhm.
what we want, there is always a path to achieve it. So till now, whoever I've interacted with, there has been a lot of confusion about this. But I'm very happy to see
Mhm.
that you're very clear at this right age. So that's a really beautiful
Mhm.
thing, Akshat. So that's wonderful.
Thank you so
So
much.
finally, coming to a beautiful close about this poetic
Mhm.
interview, I would call it. It's very poetic in the way it has gone. So, what is your suggestions and advice to the younger generation or the people who are watching it to become much bigger in whatever they are doing?
Well, to discover, to put it in your words, whatever they're doing, to discover that is the major first step. That's 90% of what you want to achieve, and the rest of the 10% is the commitment to doing that, whatever you're doing. So it's basically to stick on to something and to stick on very, very hard, very, very firmly, and you'll achieve great things in that. So that's a really important part. It's just commitment, it's just discipline to sticking to what you love. And if you've tried out many things and you've discovered yourself, that's 90% in. Just keep going and you'll be successful.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Akshay. It was a very beautiful interaction with you. Thank you for coming with us on TWF Talks and hope to see more about you and wishing you all success in your boards and as well as in the future.
Thank you so much. And I love this interaction with you, Amrita, and with all the viewers of the Way Forward Talks. So I just love this interaction. Thank you so, so much for this opportunity in this hour.
Thank you so much.